live in interesting times. Today's stories. Iranian MPs chant, and I quote, "Death to America" during a meeting in Tehran. President Trump warns that the US will hit Iran harder than ever before if the US is attacked. On the Australia fires, a resident describes moments as flames approached his home.
Raw was unbelievable. It was just raw.
A building in Cambodia collapses with the death toll hitting 36 as rescue efforts are called off. A protest erupts in Chicago against the killing of Soleimani.
No justice! No peace! USA!
Protesters gathered in Washington, D.C. to rally against the prospect of a war with Iran.
We say no war!
U.S. paratroopers and airmen head to the Middle East as tensions escalate. For sports, the Dallas Stars ring in the new year with a home win against the Nashville Predators at the 2020 NHL Winter Classic.
And this is our first Winter Classic, and so we're...
Plus, a Hawaii mall welcomes 2020 with a pineapple drop. This is Eagle News, coming to you from Washington, D.C., bringing you stories from around the globe. I'm Ace Ramirez. Iranian MPs chant "Death to America" while raising their clenched fists during a meeting in the capital, Tehran. A tide of mourners flooded the Iranian city of Ava Sunday, weeping and beating their chests in homage to top General Qasem Soleimani, who was killed in a U.S. strike in Baghdad. They chanted "Death to America" as they packed the streets and filled a long bridge spanning a river in the southwestern city, where Soleimani's remains arrived from Iraq before dawn. As Shiite chants resonated in the air, mourners held portraits of Soleimani, seen as a hero of the 1980-1988 Iran-Iraq War and for spearheading Iran's Middle East operations as commander of the Revolutionary Guard's Quds Force. Soleimani was killed in a U.S. drone strike Friday near Baghdad airport, shocking the Islamic Republic. He was 62. The attack was ordered by President Donald Trump, who said the Quds commander had been planning an imminent attack on U.S. diplomats and American forces in Iraq. In the face of growing Iraqi anger over the U.S. strike, the country's parliament was expected to vote Sunday on whether to oust the roughly 5,200 American troops in Iraq. Soleimani's assassination ratcheted up tensions between arch-enemies Tehran and Washington and sparked fears of a new Middle East war. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei vowed, and I quote, "severe revenge," and declared 3 days of mourning. But Trump warned late Saturday that America was targeting 52 sites important to Iran and Iranian culture and would hit them, and I quote, "very fast and very hard" if the country attacks American personnel or assets. In a series of tweets, Trump said the choice of 52 targets represented the number of Americans held hostage at the U.S. Embassy in Tehran for more than a year, starting in late 1979. Iran's top diplomat Mohammad Javad Zarif tweeted, and I quote, "targeting cultural sites is a war crime and a red line in international law. For Iran's army chief, the threat was an attempt to distract the world from Soleimani's unjustifiable assassination." Major General Abdul Rahim Mousavi said, and I quote, "I doubt they have the courage to initiate a conflict in the future." U.S.-Iran tensions escalated in 2018 when Trump unilaterally withdrew from a landmark accord that gave Tehran relief from sanctions in return for curbs on its nuclear program. Iran has hit back by reducing its nuclear commitments with a series of steps every 60 days, the most recent deadline passing Saturday. President Donald Trump warned Saturday night that the United States would hit Iran harder than ever before if Tehran retaliates to the assassination of one of its top generals. He tweeted, and I quote, "If they attack again, which I would strongly advise them not to do, we will hit them harder than they have ever been hit before." Trump followed up with another tweet saying the US would use its brand new beautiful military equipment without hesitation if the Iranians retaliate. Meanwhile, in Australia, a resident of Budong describes the moments that flames approached his farm on Saturday.
Basically, yesterday I went to the lookout area, which is about 15 k's out, and it was down to the river. I thought, right, better get back here, get sprinklers going and things happening. And it wouldn't have been half an hour later, it was here. Just roaring. The roar was unbelievable. It was just roaring. Flames, I don't know, 60 foot high. You can see they just burn all the tops of the trees. Then next thing it come from this way, burning right through, and big explosions and everything, because of everything down there. And it was just, yeah, pretty full on intense. Next thing, 60, 80k winds from this side. And ripped through there. And all this black soot, dust, bloody blocking me mask, and they're all sucking in. I'm going, just had sprinklers going everywhere. That's what saved it. Having plenty of water and sprinklers going everywhere, and just hosing everything. As I was saying, you know, the fires would just, you'd turn around, there's another fire, there's another fire, little swap fires everywhere.
The search for victims in the rubble of a collapsed building in southern Cambodia drew to a close Sunday with the final death toll at 36, the latest tragedy in a string of deadly construction accidents. Cambodia Prime Minister Hun Sen said 23 people had been pulled alive from the rubble of the 7-story hotel, which crumpled to the ground in Seaside Kep on Friday afternoon. On Sunday, rescuers also managed to free a dog trapped in the debris. Hun Sen, who promised families of victims would get $50,000 each in compensation, while those injured would receive $20,000 each, said, and I quote, "This is yet another tragedy." He told reporters the contractor responsible for the construction had died in the accident, while the building's owner had been detained. The rescue effort lasted more than 40 hours, mobilizing hundreds of soldiers and laborers using excavators, drills, and power saws to clear concrete and cut through metal bars of the pancaked structure. Cambodia is undergoing a construction boom, with hotels, high-rises, and casinos springing up under little regulatory oversight. According to the International Labour Organization, the tough and often dangerous labor is undertaken by an estimated 200,000 construction workers, mostly unskilled, reliant on day wages, and not protected by union rules. Last June, some 28 people died in the collapse of a building under construction in Sihanoukville, a beach town flush with Chinese investment that worker advocacy groups point to low safety standards that raise the risk of accidents at construction sites, which often serve as the temporary homes for the laborers and their families. Worker A. Kosal said on Saturday that he, his wife, and 2 other women were having a meal on site when the building collapsed. Their 2 companions were crushed. Up next, a protest erupts in Chicago against the killing of Soleimani. Protesters gathered in Washington, D.C. to rally against the prospect of a war with Iran. U.S. paratroopers and airmen head to the Middle East as tensions escalate. For sports, the Dallas Stars ring in the new year with a home win against the Nashville Predators at the 2020 NHL Winter Classic. Eagle News will be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. This is Eagle News coming to you from Washington, D.C. I'm Ace Ramirez. Demonstrators chanting "No War on Iran" rallied in cities across the U.S. on Saturday to protest the assassination of a top Iranian military commander in the U.S. drone strike. In Chicago, protesters gathered against the killing of Qasem Soleimani.
Qasem Soleimani was responsible for protecting Iran's borders from external threats. The same external threats that we have feared for well over a decade. That is ISIS.
The last few days have been filled with fear and trepidation amongst myself, my community, the people in Iran that I'm in touch with, over what the future has in stock for us. We can look to Afghanistan, we can look to Iraq, we can see the death and devastation that U.S. imperialism has wrought around the world and what they have in store for the Iranian people and for the Iraqi people, again, at this point in time.
What's the definition of stupid? Doing the same damn thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And that's what the United States has done under both Democratic and Republican administrations for the last half century.
In Washington, D.C., around 200 people gathered outside the White House and in front of Trump International Hotel in Washington, D.C. as part of a wave of rallies across the U.S. to protest the assassination of Qasem Soleimani in a U.S. drone strike.
The floor of the AFL-CIO convention.
Demonstrators chanting "No War on Iran" rallied Saturday in Washington, New York, and across the U.S. to protest the assassination of a top Iranian military commander in a U.S. drone strike. Outside the White House, around 200 people gathered as part of a wave of rallies called by left-leaning organizations. They chanted slogans including, and I quote, "No justice, no peace, U.S. out of the Middle East." Organizers said demonstrations were convened in some 70 U.S. cities to denounce the killing of Major General Qasem Soleimani early Friday in Baghdad on orders from President Donald Trump. The attack has prompted fears of a major conflagration in the Middle East.
All came out, and the reason why we're here is to stand against Donald Trump's, unilateral criminal bombing in Iraq that killed Iranian officials as an obvious escalation with Iran. We're sick of wars being carried out in our name. We're sick of our tax dollars going to spreading destruction, devastation, bloodshed, and misery all over the earth, when that money and resources could be put to all the different needs that we have here.
Dismantling of the Iran deal over the course of the Trump presidency has caused countless damage to the relationship with Iran, and the events in Iraq have sort of added to that. So this is not a single thing, it's a long time thing. I think everyone here knows who is going to bear the burden of any war between the U.S. and Iran, and who has borne the burden of all of the U.S.'s imperialist excursions in the Middle East. It's the regular people, it's poor people, both in the U.S. and Iran and Iraq and the rest of the Middle East. And so I think I'm here today to show my solidarity with those people and to express that we're united against the real enemy in this, which is not America, which is not Iran, it's the rich in both of those countries.
I think there are some wars that are within reason, and this is out of pocket. This is not any reason to go to war with them. Yes, I get that they might have hit the embassy there, but when you give people no chance to survive and you're bombing them and kids are growing up seeing their parents die and living in the streets, the only way to get out of it is to fight back.
Paratroopers and airmen from the U.S. Army's 82nd Airborne Division deploy from Fort Bragg to the Middle East as tensions escalate following the killing of top Iranian commander Qasem Soleimani in a U.S. drone attack in Baghdad. Security sources said 2 mortar rounds hit the Iraqi capital's Green Zone Saturday, and 2 rockets slammed into a base housing U.S. troops a day after a deadly American strike. The precision drone strike outside the Baghdad airport on Friday killed Iranian Commander Qasem Soleimani, top Iraqi paramilitary chief Abu Mahdi al-Muhandis, and a clutch of other Iranian and Iraqi figures. Security sources said in Baghdad, mortar rounds on Saturday evening hit the Green Zone, the high-security enclave where the U.S. Embassy is based. The Iraqi military said that 1 projectile hit inside the zone, while another landed close to the enclave. Security sources said the Iraqi military said a pair of Katyusha rockets then hit the Balad air base north of Baghdad, where American troops are based. Security sources there reported blaring sirens and said surveillance drones were sent above the base to locate the source of the rockets. The U.S. Embassy in Baghdad, as well as the 5,200 American troops stationed across the country, have faced a spate of rocket attacks in recent months that Washington has blamed on Iran and its allies in Iraq. One attack last month killed a U.S. contractor working in northern Iraq, prompting retaliatory American strikes that killed 25 hardline fighters close to Iran. Tensions boiled over on Friday when the U.S. struck Soleimani's convoy as it drove out of the airport, and U.S. diplomats and troops across Iraq had been bracing themselves for more rocket attacks. Now for EBC Sports. The Dallas Stars ring in the new year with a home win against the Nashville Predators at the 2020 NHL Winter Classic, which took place for the first time at the Cotton Bowl, home of the Texas State Fair. Danita Manawis reports.
Every new year, NHL hosts its annual Winter Classic, where hockey games are held outdoors. Kicking off the 2020 games are the Dallas Stars hosting the Nashville Predators at the Cotton Bowl Stadium.
The first NHL game of the year in Dallas delivered fireworks, drama, live animals, and a victory for the Stars in the league's annual Winter Classic at the Cotton Bowl on Wednesday. Dallas hockey fans celebrated more than just the new year. The Stars earned their 3rd straight win with a thrilling 4-2 comeback victory against the Nashville Predators. At the beginning of the period, Stars winger Corey Perry unintentionally elbowed Predators defenseman Ryan Ellis, resulting in Perry's ejection from the game. Ellis suffered an upper body injury and did not return to the game. Predators struck first in the second, jumped to a 2-0 lead before a last-minute goal by Blake Como. In the final period, Stars rallied to score 3 more goals, snagging the victory in front of 85,630 fans, the second largest audience in the NHL's 102-year history. Despite the reputation of Texas being warm, the ice stayed cool at 54.9 degrees Fahrenheit. According to NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman, there were more people here in yellow from Nashville than would fit in Bridgestone Arena. So that's how well Predators fans travel. All in all, it has been sensational. The amount of attendees, approximately 25,000 being Predators fans, was impressive. The excitement that comes with hockey was not only limited on the ice, but even on the grounds of Fair Park, where attendees enjoyed Texas State Fair rides and foods, concert performances, and live animals which included horses and pigs. Green or Gold, a Attendees for either side expressed their excitement to be part of this NHL New Year's tradition.
From Nashville, Tennessee. Came down here for the Winter Classic. This is my first Winter Classic. We came down just for the atmosphere, to see a huge outdoor hockey game.
But I'm super excited about the Winter Classic. You know, I've been going to Stars games since I was about 3 years old, and I've been going to games my entire life, and it's pretty cool to experience this in Texas. You know, you watch the Winter Classic every year on New Year's Day, and it's pretty cool to have it here in Dallas and get to watch my favorite team.
We're from Nashville, actually Franklin, Tennessee, just south of Nashville, and we go to quite a few Preds games, and this is our first Winter Classic, and so we're been looking forward to this, and we got here I think the other day on Tuesday, and we'll be leaving tomorrow, but this is exciting for us, and something different that we haven't done before, so looking forward to it.
Well, I brought my 5 kids, and my sister from Nashville actually flew down, so it's a big family event.
How would it go now that you brought your sister from Nashville and you're from Dallas?
Well, she's rooting for the other team, so it's all gonna be fun until the game starts, and there's gonna be a lot of yelling at the end of the day. We're just glad to see each other for the first time.
Reporting from the Cotton Bowl Stadium here at Dallas, Texas, this is Nanita Banawis, your Eagle News correspondent, always one with 25.
When we come back, a Hawaii mall welcomes 2020 with a pineapple drop. Eagle News will return in a moment. You are watching Eagle News, coming to you from Washington, D.C. I'm Ace Ramirez. In this time of year, Hawaii is 5 hours behind New York. So as the year 2019 drew to a close, the 50th state should have been among the last in the U.S. to have rung in the new year. But for a community in the heart of Oahu, this did not have to be the case. Here's Hawaii correspondent Mio Asenas with her last report in 2019.
Mililani is a small community, which does not have a lot of tourists nor gain as much spotlight compared to Hawaii's capital city of Honolulu. But for several years now, this town located in the higher plains of central Oahu has been celebrating New Year's Eve in a unique way compared to other locations in the Aloha State. The town center of Mililani has been hosting the New Year's Eve pineapple drop, which takes place just a few seconds at 7 p.m. Hawaii time, coinciding with the ball drop at New York City's Times Square at midnight Eastern Time. The selection of the pineapple was based on central Oahu's history, in which vast plantations used to dominate the landscape and made Hawaii the pineapple capital of the world back in the early 20th century. According to organizers, this event brings the people of central Oahu together and nurtures a strong pride in their community, while at the same time welcoming tourists between Honolulu in the south and the beaches up in North Shore. This year's festivity kicked off at 5 p.m. Hawaii time and featured Kimberly Locke, a singer-songwriter who was second runner-up on American Idol Season 2. The event also hosted free live performances by local artists and various cultural groups.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year!
Other activities that take place on New Year's Day include a hike along a trail towards Makapu'u Lighthouse Point to catch the first sunrise of the year in Hawaii. Another is the Fukubukuro discount shopping spree at Ala Moana Center, the state's largest shopping mall.
Reporting from Honolulu, Hawaii, I'm Mio Asenas, 1 with 25. Happy New Year!
Thank you, Mio. That is today's Eagle News. Join us again tomorrow for stories that matter to you. Visit our websites at eaglenews.net and eaglenewslive.com. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/Eagle News and on facebook.com/Eagle News. Thank you for watching. I'm Mace Ramirez, 1 with 25.